Hey everybody, this one is about the state of Texas does not exist. Um, I recently uploaded this and the sound was all screwed up, and I think they're messing with my computers. So this is, I know this is going to be better. This is a different computer. Anyways, the state of Texas does not exist. First of all, I'm not a liar. Not a lawyer. Well, I mean, is there a difference? Lawyers are liars. Watch my video. You should never take my word for anything. You should always do your own research. I provided references to aid you in your research, and I don't know everything, and I'm open to new ideas, especially for videos. There's four kinds of people that you'll meet in your life. There's the people who try to wake up the slaves. I like to think that maybe I'm one of them. There's the slave masters. There's the people who have no idea they're slaves. And there's the people who like being slaves. Which one are you? Do you really know for sure? And are you who you think you are? If you can see through the illusion, then you are the solution. Everything's a fraud. If the people do not know their basic rights and freedoms, how can they know when or if their rights and freedoms are being infringed? Think about it. Most people have no idea their rights are being violated. They're just a bunch of brain-dead sheeple. Never forget, the men who started this country were marijuana-growing, whiskey-drinking, tax-evading rebels who left their beds at night to shoot at the pigs. True freedom does not equal government politics. Society in every state is a blessing, but government, even in its best state, is but a necessary evil. Well said, Thomas Paine. Truth is treason in the empire of lies. Well said, Ron Paul. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Well said, Thomas Jefferson. Copies of these documents can be found in my private group at Yahoo called Administrating Your Public Servants. For a complete set of YouTube videos with private information, shares a DVD with over 50 searchable law dictionaries and other books and forms, contact me privately at engineerwin@yahoo.com. Donations to support this work are appreciated. I prefer gold or silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept the fake money, the military script, the IOUs, the Federal Reserve notes, the PayPal gifts, the checks, the money orders. Send me an email for particulars. This is from the Secretary of State for the state of Texas. The state of Texas. Notice the seal. Rolando B. Pablos. This was done, and we're going to zoom in it here shortly. Let's get in close. This was done on September 18, 2018. And a certificate of fact is what this is, issued by the Office of the Secretary of State with their seal on it. The undersigned, as Secretary of State of Texas, hereby certifies that a diligent search of the records of this office was performed on the name, the State of Texas. Gee, that's what it says on that seal. It is further certified that the search revealed the following. There is no record of a domestic corporation, professional association, limited partnership, limited liability partnership, limited liability company by the name searched. There is no record of a foreign corporation, professional association, limited partnership, limited liability partnership, limited liability company, business trust, real estate investment trust, or other foreign filing entity with the registration to transact business by the name searched. There is no record of an out-of-state financial institution registration by the name searched. There is no record to indicate that a designation of agent for service of process is on file for a Texas financial institution, unincorporated nonprofit association, or a defense-based development authority by the name searched. So no domestic corporation, no foreign corporation, no other kind of entity. However, the following entities with similar names to the name searched were found. State of Texas, which is an assumed name for Deer Park Cash Cow. Yeah, I'll bet it is a cash cow. And then he mixes, I hereunto sign my name officially and cause to be impressed upon the seal of the state of the office at Austin, Texas. So the state of Texas does not exist, but state of Texas does. It's quite the scam, isn't it? And this is Texas Secretary of State. This is Deer Park Cash Cow Limited Liability Company, located at 17 Wilderness Trail, Friendswood, Texas. And they have a couple assumed names. One called State of Texas and one called Cash Cow Pond. Well, I'm sure they're all cash cows. And notice that it's active in all counties. And it was originally filed in 2010, it looks like. So let's look a little further. A friend sent this to me, so I thought this would make a great video. This is Deer Park Cash Cow. This is the name, okay, showing that they have a limited liability company, domestic limited liability company. That means in Texas. And this is the filing history for Deer Park Cash Cow. So it started November 5th, 2010, certificate of formation. And we're going to look at that here in a minute. That's Deer Park Cash Cow. The Deer Park Cash Cow LLC has a manager, and the manager is Madison Inc. And that was filed in 2011. So prior to that, there was a different manager. So, and we're going to go there. Deer Park Cash Cow has a registered agent called Ashley Management Inc., and that's in Huntsville, Texas. And Madison Inc., oh, look at that, 17 Wilderness Trail, Friendswood, Texas again. Gee, oh, look at that. Derek S. Muntz, director of Madison Inc. So Derek S. Muntz is the real party of interest. So when these pigs assaulted you and drag you into their so-called court, then you need to get his butt in there, because he's the ones that complaining under the there's that Delaware and Raritan Canal Company in 1851, I think, or 1857. Supreme Court case said that the officers and directors of the corporation that sue and are sued. So he's the one that needs to be suing you, not these liars. Ashley Management Inc. is the registered agent for Madison Inc. So they're the registered agent for Madison Inc. and for Deer Park Cash Cow. I'll bet it is a cash cow. And this is Madison Inc. filing history, certificate of formation on January 3rd, 2007, when Madison Inc. was created. And then there was a change of registered agent office, public information reports, a bunch of things that were filed here. And we're going to see some of that. Here is the Deer Park Cash Cow. It was filed in 2010, November 5th, 2010, the certificate of formation, a limited liability company, and the registered agent's office was Ashley Management Inc. And on page 2 it says the manager is Madison Inc. and Sharon M. Leal is the organizer in Austin, Texas, 5th of November 2010. And notice this. The organizer, the undersigned organizer, hereby disclaims any past and future interests in or control of Deer Park Cash Cow Limited Liability Company, and resigns as organizer effective upon the formation of the company. So they set it up and walk away from it. Oh, and look at this. Texas Franchise Tax Public Information Report for Deer Park Cash Cow. And it shows that Madison Inc. is the manager. Mailing address is 3505 Kingston Drive, Friendswood, Texas. So there's a couple addresses in this Friendswood, Texas. One of them is probably a mailbox, I'm guessing, and the other one is probably, could be a commercial address too. But the other one's probably somebody's home address. And Ashley Management Inc. is the registered agent. And this was signed, this is in 2011, the Texas Franchise Tax Public Information Report. And here is the statement of registered agent for Deer Park Cash Cow. Ashley Management Inc. is the registered agent, and it looks like they changed their address from 1305 11th Street in Huntsville to 301 Forest Lane in Huntsville. And get a load of this. Derek Muntz was the partner at the time. Okay, so it was a limited liability company, and this is 2017 when that was done. That was 2017, and Derek Muntz is signing as the partner. And here's another one for Deer Park Cash Cow in 2017, Madison Inc. So Derek Muntz is a partner in Madison Inc. So that's interesting. So he's a partner in Deer Park Cash Cow, according to this, and he's also a partner in Madison Inc. That's interesting. And Ashley Management Inc. is the registered agent, and 17 Wilderness Trail, again, is that address in Friendswood, Texas. And the Cash Cow Pawn. This is the assumed name filing for for Cash Cow Pawn that Deer Park Cash Cow Limited Liability Company filed. All counties, boy, Cash Cow Pawn, boy, I'll bet it is a cash cow. I'll bet you the state of Texas is a cash cow. I'll bet you it rakes in all sorts of money. And look at that. Derek Muntz is signing for Deer Park Cash Cow LLC. And this is the filing document for Madison Inc. in 2008. The registered agent is located, the registered office is in Friendswood, Texas. The registered agent is in Huntsville. Derek Muntz is the registered agent. So this is a change of registered agent. So this was done in 2008. Originally, Derek Muntz was the registered agent for Madison Inc., and he went and farmed it out to Ashley Management Inc. to kind of probably get away from it. Madison Inc. This is 2008 Texas Franchise Tax Public Information Report, and it shows that Derek Muntz is the president, and Laura Muntz, that's probably his wife, is the secretary treasurer, and Ashley Management Inc. is the registered agent, and it looks like he's even putting a phone number down there for you if you want to give him a call. This is the Texas Franchise Tax Public Information Report for Madison Inc. for 2009. That's a year later, obviously. And Derek Muntz and Laura Muntz are president, secretary, treasurer. Ashley Management Inc. is the registered agent, 2009. This is 2010, Madison Inc. again. Derek Muntz is the president, and Laura Muntz is the secretary treasurer. Ashley Management Inc. is the registered agent. Oh, look at that. He's even giving you a phone number. And I guess that's Derek Muntz's signature there, saying president. 2011, Derek Muntz, president. Laura Muntz, secretary treasurer. Ashley Management Inc. I think we even saw this already once. This is the certificate of formation. It's pretty simple, I'll tell you. It's 2 pages. 2007, January 3rd, 2007, Madison Inc. Derek Muntz is the initial registered agent. And, oh, look at that. Sharon M. Leal is starting up there, too. Initial board of directors, 1 director, Derek Muntz. And, notice that resigns. Sharon Leal resigns immediately, so he seems to be getting her to do quite a bit of stuff. Madison Inc. This is the change of name of registered agent. Madison Inc. Ashley Management Inc. moved from one location to another, and Derek Muntz is signing as president. And Madison Inc. again, Derek Muntz is president. So this is quite a cash cow, eh? Deer Park cash cow, and has the DBA has as of state of Texas. So it's really Deer Park cash cow, and really it's Derek Muntz is the guy to be looking up. Laura Muntz is the Secretary Treasurer. Ashley Management Inc. Oh, look at that. He's giving you a nice typed phone number there if you want to call him. Ashley Management Inc. This is the change of registered agent to name or address. So this looks like it's a change of address for the registered agent, Ashley Management Inc. in 2011. So if anyone, I think that anyone can do the same thing in any other state and find the same information. And I have seen similar information for Colorado. There's that guy that did the bonding video. He actually shows some of this stuff in Colorado. So martial law is here, okay? And do you know who you are? Okay, these people are just nothing but a bunch of thieves and pirates, and this is what's going on these days. Oh, and get a load of this. Since the this is actually the affidavit of Daniel Lee Swank on the judiciary courts of the state of Texas. And notice it says on the notary statement just state of Texas. That's interesting. Anyways, he notarizes it. Look at that. And the notary seal is Albert A. Thomas, Notary Public, State of Texas. Isn't that interesting? I never even noticed that before. Anyways, affidavit, Daniel Lee Swank. I've retrieved the attached 2 pages of Dun & Bradstreet Business Background Report regarding the for-profit corporate status of judiciary courts of the state of Texas for the Dun & Bradstreet Internet website. And that's all he says. And this is recorded with the Liberty County Recorder up in the top left-hand corner up here. That's the recording barcode. And we'll go to page 2. We're going to look at this a little closer. So it's kind of small here, but this is the big picture, and that's the second page of the big picture. We're going to get in a little closer. There it is. Judiciary Courts of the State of Texas, subsidiary of Texas State of. So it's not the state of Texas. It is State of Texas, and it's a DBA for Deer Park cash cow. And look at this. Texas Supreme Court building is the head office, and it was started in 1845, so it's obviously been rolled over a little bit here and those sorts of things. The top executive is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Yeah, right. Well, it's a business, quite the business. Deer Park cash cow, it's really a cash cow. So you want to really get mixed up with these pigs? These Satanists, they go and assault you and drag you into their so-called court and call it a contract. Here it continues on. It says type of business, corporation, for-profit corporation. It says it's incorporated in Texas. Well, according to the Secretary of State, it's not. Well, actually, state of Texas is. It's the state of Texas that's not incorporated in Texas. And state of Texas is just a DBA for Deer Park cash cow. And that's what these Satanists are doing, is they're assaulting you with their Deer Park cash cow. And I'll bet you that Muntz guy is connected. I bet you he's with the Roman cult. I'll bet you he's probably a Jesuit. I'll bet you. Bet you he's tied in with it. And get a load of this. Subsidiary of Texas, state of Austin, started in 1845, operates as a state government. Yeah. As noticed, this company is a subsidiary of Texas, state of, and reference is made to the report for background information of the parent company and its management. State court system, which includes the Supreme Court, Court of Criminal Appeals, Courts of Last Resort, 14 courts of appeals with 80 judges, district court with 386 judges, I think. It's kind of hard to read that. Criminal district court with 10 judges, county level courts with 445 judges. funds derived from tax revenues. Okay, so yeah, it's a big money-making scam. They get their low-intelligence pigs to go out and assault you and drag you into their so-called court, and then they go and fleece you. It's just nothing. They sell you into slavery. These people are Satanists. Okay, that's the first order of business. Is they want to get rid of our little common law problem. They go on and impose martial law, because at common law they get their neck stretched for doing this kind of stuff. Anyways, so let's continue. This is the second page at the bottom. On the left-hand side here it's the Liberty County recording filing number. So you can go down to Liberty County, maybe even pull it up on the website. I don't know, and pull this up anytime you want. And then on the right-hand side it's a certified copy at the county clerk. So when Daniel Lee Swank went and got this thing recorded, he went and got a certified copy at the same time, which is a good idea, actually. Anyways, if the state of Texas does not exist, then neither do its subsidiaries. Okay, think about it. It's all a fraud. These people are nothing but thieves and pirates. And every state is the same way. They're subsidiaries, actually, of United States, Inc., which is domiciled in the District of Columbia. They're nothing but, get a load of this, Pentagon, Inc., okay? Google, YouTube, Facebook, Amazon. At least you have to voluntarily participate with these guys. You can walk away anytime you feel like. They're masquerading as Pentagon Inc., masquerading as private companies, and private companies masquerading as government in the case of state of Texas. Governments masquerading as private companies masquerading as governments. State of Texas and United States. Martial law is here, okay, folks? It's about time we started waking up. Did you give up your God-given rights for some satanic privileges? And all you trolls out there, I'm just going to dump on you because I don't even want to hear from you trolls, okay? I mean, it's well documented that the government puts out their trolls so they can go and interfere with people like me trying to educate a bunch of brain-dead sheeple out there. And so, I'm not going to have 2 seconds for anybody like I just delete. Anyways, in the dissenting opinion of Justice Marshall Harlan in the case Downs versus Bidwell, U.S. Supreme Court, 1901, two national governments exist, one to be maintained under the Constitution with all its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independent of that instrument. And quite frankly, I believe that the Constitution was inspired by God, but I hold no allegiance to some Roman cult corporation run by Congress. These Congress Satanists, okay? All of our problems are coming from Congress, okay? You have to understand that. Congress is the seat of all of our problems, okay? Actually, it can be taken back to the Roman cult from there, but really, at the end of the day, it's just Congress. Indiana and Company. Get a load of this. 3,460,000 stockholders engaged in providing peace, justice, security, opportunity, health, highways, education, conservation, recreation. Certificate. Every Indiana citizen is a stockholder in 4,300 school buildings. Looks like 9,168 miles of highways, 34 state parks and memorials, 19 state institutions, 4 colleges and universities, state library, state fair is entitled to services rendered by all state departments such as police, courts, health, securities commission, public service commission, social security, conservation, industry, labor services, insured bank deposits and life insurance policies, etc. You notice all that's commercial, right? This certifies that every Indiana citizen is the owner of a full share of the capital stock of Indiana and Company. Woohoo! Transferable only upon the books of this corporation in person or by attorney upon surrender of this certificate to properly endorsed. It's hard to read that. And witness whereof the said corporation has caused certificate to be signed by its duly authorized officer and its corporate. It's hard to read that. This first day of January 1938, signed by the governor. It's hard to read that. Report for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 1936 and ending June 30th, 1937. Gee, they're not doing any of those anymore. You know what that means, don't you? That means they're all gone bankrupt and the owners are the bankster thieves. See, that's what bringing all these liars in here has done for us, okay? That's what these bar members have done for us, okay? I've got a bunch of videos about the bar members, okay? This is what the bar members have done for us. Prepared by the Indiana Gross Income Tax Division, Clarence A. Jackson, Director, Indiana Department of Treasury Board. Anyways. Contract. Do you feel like you have no constitutional rights when it comes to income tax? It's because you don't. The Constitution does not apply where two parties have a contractual relationship. The question is where's the contract? The power which is derived cannot be greater than that from which it is derived. That's Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856 edition. That's a maxim of law. That's why they have to criminally convert their citizenship into the opposite of what the founders intended. That's why they have to establish the Roman cult Sestake trust, because they know they don't have a shred of authority over a man or woman. They only have it over a Sestake trust. And that's why they have to assault you with their government-issued ID and the real ID. Okay, they want to get your real ID. That's what these Satanists are doing. So they can assault you with their Sestake trust, because that's what's on that real ID. And while the 14th Amendment does not create a national citizenship, it has the effect of making that citizenship paramount and dominant instead of derivative and dependent upon state citizenship. That's U.S. Supreme Court, Colgate versus Harvey. And see, the so-called 14th Amendment is unconstitutional video. It's a revision. Citizenship is a political status and may be defined and privilege limited by Congress. Okay, that's U.S. citizens. The term resident and citizen of the United States is distinguished from a citizen of one of the several states in that the former is a special class of citizen created by Congress. See, it's all coming from Congress. That's where it's coming from, folks. All citizens of the United States shall have the same right in every state territory as enjoyed by white citizens thereof to inherit, purchase, lease, sell, hold, and convey real and personal property. That is current United States Code, 42 United States Code, Section 1982. This is all about racism is what it is. Congress is racist, okay? They've always been racist. They are nothing but a bunch of racist Satanists is what they are. Now, there's a guy in the White House that's trying to make a difference, and I think he's really, really trying. And there are some people in Congress that are not bad, but most of them are just nothing but a bunch of crooks. There is in our political system a government of the several states and a government of the United States. Each is distinct from the other and has citizens of its own. One may be a citizen of a state and yet not a citizen of the United States. There is a clear distinction between national citizenship and state citizenship. So they want to assault you with their Roman cult Sestake trust because that's what the U.S. citizen is, and then they can sell you into slavery. They can bring you into their commerce, okay? That's what these Satanists do. Instead, this provision protects only those rights peculiar to being a citizen of the federal government. It does not protect those rights which relate to state citizenship. Citizenship of the United States does not entitle citizens to privileges and immunities as citizens of the state, since privileges of one are not the same as the other. They got to assault you with that U.S. citizen slave, okay? They'll do anything to fabricate it. They'll assault you. They'll steal your property. They'll do literally anything. These people are Satanists. These are diabolically evil, and they deliberately screen out low intelligence thugs to do their dirty work for them. The privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States do not necessarily include all the rights protected by the first 8 amendments to the federal Constitution against the powers of the federal government. Did you know that? You don't get access to the first 8 amendments to the Constitution, except what they want to let you have access to. That's why they sell you into slavery. The only absolute and unqualified right of a United States citizen is to residence within the territorial boundaries of the United States. These people are Satanists. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting territory or other property belonging to the United States. If that's the U.S. citizens are subject to regulations. There's no law that says anybody has to get a Social Security number, but there is regulations, okay? And if you brain-dead idiot mother or you, the brain-dead idiot, go down and get a Social Security number because you're told you have to get one, then you just converted yourself into a slave. Welcome to the slavery. It's the same in Canada. It's the same everywhere. This is the Canadian Ownership and Control Determination Act. Owned means subject to the regulations. This is the DC Code, which was approved March 3rd, 1901. The legal estate to be the sestike use. And that's in 31 Stat 1432. And absence of 7 years where they can presume you're dead. That's 31 Stat 1230. That's the sestike trust. So they can just presume you're dead. And this is more DC Code, located at 31 Stat 1189, and be it further enacted that in the interpretation and construction of said code, the following rules should be observed, namely the third, the word person shall be held to apply to partnerships and corporations. They get to assault you with their corporation. A corporation's property. Think about it. A corporation is property. It is regulatable. Okay? Corporations are subject to regulation. Corporations are slaves. They can do anything they want. Why do you think they tax them? Okay? Because it's a slave. It's property. That's what in the Civil War, before the Civil War, there's all sorts of cases over slavery, and the debate in the court case was always over property rights. If you are property, you are a slave. If you're paying taxes, you are a slave. You are being forced to work for nothing to pay the extortion. Time to wake up, folks. Every taxpayer is a sestike trust having sufficient interest in preventing the abuse of the trust to be recognized in the court in the field of this court's prerogative jurisdiction. And that's a summary from Henry Boland's 1912. And a summary of 5 pages of congressional record dated June 13, 1967 says, a citizen of the United States is a civilly dead entity operating as co-trustee and co-beneficiary of the public charitable trust, the constructive sestike trust of U.S. Inc., under the 14th Amendment, which upholds the debt of USA and U.S. Inc. Slater's protestations to the effect that he derives no benefit from the United States government have no bearing on his legal obligations to pay income tax. Unless the defendant can establish that he's not a citizen of the United States, the IRS possesses authority to attempt to determine his federal tax liability. He is a slave. Yet still it was found difficult to set bounds to ecclesiastical ingenuity. That's the Roman cult, folks. For when they were driven out of all their former holes, they devised a new method of conveyance by which the lands were granted not to themselves directly, but to nominal fiefs, to the use of the religious houses, thus distinguishing between the possession and the use, and receiving the actual profits, while the season of the land remained in a nominal fief, who was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy. That's the Roman cult, folks, and it's still the Roman cult. To be bound in conscience to account to a sestike use for the rents and emoluments of the estate. Gee, that sounds like taxes. And it is to these inventions that our practitioners are indebted for the introduction of uses and trusts, the foundation of modern conveyancing. And this is still the foundation of modern conveyancing. This is Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition, volume 2, under the definition of mort main. And so in 1835, they're talking about the Sestike Trust. There's a Sestike V Act of 1666, and that's when London burned, by the way. And it's also interesting to note that the DC Code talks about the Sestike Trust. And this is where it's codified. Title 15, United States Code, Section 44, Definitions. Corporation shall be deemed to include any company, trust, so-called Massachusetts trust or association, incorporated or unincorporated, which is organized to carry on business for its own profit or that of its members, and has shares of capital or capital stock or certificates of interest, And then it goes through the same definition, except it says it does not have shares of capital or capital stock or certificates of interest. Well, that is a Satanic trust. A Satanic trust has no shares of capital or capital stock or certificates of interest. Statutes equals contract equals Roman cult. A penal action is an action on a penal statute, an action for recovery of penalty given by statute. Where an action is founded entirely upon a statute, the only object is to recover a penalty or forfeiture, such action is a penal action. The words penal and penalty in their strict and primary sense denote a punishment, whether corporal or pecuniary, imposed and enforced by the state for a crime or offense against its laws. The noun penalty is defined forfeiture or to be forfeited for non-compliance with an agreement. They're assaulting you with one of their little contracts. The words forfeit and penalty are substantially synonymous. A penal action is one founded entirely on statute, and the only object is to recover a penalty or forfeiture imposed as a punishment for a certain specific offense, while a remedial action is one which is brought to obtain compensation or indemnity. A penal action is a civil suit, brought for the recovery of a statutory forfeiture when inflicted as punishment for an offense against the public. Such actions are civil actions, on the one hand closely related to criminal prosecutions, on the other to actions for private injuries in which the party aggrieved may by statute recover punitive damages. Yeah, so they go and assault you with their state of Texas, drag you into their court, and then assault you with one of their so-called contracts. It's called a quasi-contract, and we're going to be talking about that in a minute. In doing this, I shall have occasion incidentally to evince how true it is that states and governments were made for man, and at the same time how true it is that his creatures and servants have first deceived, next vilified, and at last oppressed their master and maker. A state like a merchant makes a contract, a dishonest state like a dishonest merchant woefully refuses to discharge it. This is Chisholm versus Georgia, 1796, when the War of Independence was fresh in their mind, and the same thing is going on today. But individuals, when acting as representatives of a collective group, cannot be said to be exercising their personal rights and duties, nor be entitled to their purely personal privileges. Rather, they assume the rights, duties, and privileges of the artificial entity or association of which they're agents or officers, and they're bound by its obligations. And that's Braswell versus United States, U.S. Supreme Court, quoting United States versus White. Statutes equals contract equals Roman cult. Did you give up your God-given right for some satanic privileges? Assumpsit, quasi-contracts. In its origin an action of tort, assumpsit was soon transformed into an action of contract, becoming afterwards a remedy where there was neither tort nor contract. Based at first upon an express promise, it was afterwards supported upon an implied promise and even upon a fictitious promise. Introduced as a special manifestation of the action on the case, it soon acquired the dignity of a distinct form of action which superseded debt, became concurrent with account and with case upon a bailment, a warranty, and bills of exchange. Notice those are all commercial terms. And competed with equity in the case of essentially equitable quasi-contracts. Well, you know, under common law, equity is supposed to follow common law, but when you have martial law, there is no common law, and equity can do literally anything at once. That's why that bail priest in that so-called court can sit in there and say, I can do anything I want in here, and he can't. Constructive quasi-contracts are based solely upon the legal fiction or fiction of law. They absolutely must fabricate evidence of their Roman cult Satanic trust before they can assault you with their quasi-contract. That's why they want the real ID, okay? They gotta get you to say, oh, I want to be a surety for your fictitious entity. Voluntary acceptance of benefit of transaction is equivalent to consent of all obligations arising from it so far as facts are known or ought to be known to person accepting. A quasi-contractual action presupposes acceptance and retention of a benefit by one party with full appreciation of the facts, under circumstances making it inequitable for him to retain the benefit without payment of its reasonable value. Yeah, there we got that inequity again, okay? Under martial law, they can do anything they want. They want to assault you with one of their so-called contracts. And you know jail's a benefit. Okay, they get to sell you into jail, they get to collect a royalty, and you just got a benefit. In doing this, I shall have occasion incidentally to evince how true it is the states and governments were made for man, and at the same time how true it is that his creatures and servants have first deceived, next vilified, and at last oppressed their master and maker. A state like a merchant makes a contract, a dishonest state like a dishonest merchant willfully refuses to discharge it. He, the prisoner, has, as a consequence of his crime, not only forfeited his liberty, but all his personal rights, except those which the law in its humanity affords him. He is, for the time being, a slave of the state. And at common law, they should get their necks stretched for that. If a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and maketh merchandise of him or selleth him, then that thief shall die. Thou shalt put evil away from among you. Well, folks, we, the people, have been asleep at the wheel for 100 years or more, and so we are going to reap the whirlwind, the judgments of God, because we've been letting this evil grow to the point that it's at right now. Vid.me shut down on 15 December, and a YouTube channel called Sovereignty International is deleted. I made the exclusive content available on my website. I have 2 subscription levels, and I accept cryptocurrencies. My basic subscription is the donation is $29.99 a year for the videos only, and the donation for the videos plus unlimited consultations is $49.99 a year. And but there is some limitations because I am not a liar. Well, I'm an attorney. No, I'm not a liar. I mean, what's the difference? They're all the same. They're all bar members are liars by definition, because they sit up there and they say this guy did this and this guy did that, and they don't have any first-hand knowledge of anything. But I can tell you what I would do under a certain circumstance and where to find the forms. And people on other previous subscription plans will remain on that plan as long as they renew. But you better renew. You got to renew. Otherwise, you lose your grandfathered status. Now, my unlimited consultations has limitations again. It does not include phone calls. It does not include preparing paperwork or reviewing documents, and it does not include babysitting. In other words, you send me an email, you say, well, should I, get this notarized or just use witnesses? That's a personal preference, and I'm not going to babysit you, okay? So you need to grow up and decide for yourself what's best for you. And I can tell you what I would do under certain circumstance, and that's and where to find the forms. Okay, that's about it. The only power that these New World Order Satanists have over us is through fraud and deception, and my agenda is to expose it for all our benefit. But I cannot fight all the battles. I need more people that know what's going on and how it's happening, so that they can fight it on point. And so if you want to make a donation for a subscription as a donation, it's appreciated. A whole bunch of people chipping in a little bit adds up, and it can be a whole lot. And so every little bit helps, and it's appreciated. I'm currently publishing 1 video a week. The top link is where you can go, and all of my videos, or not all of them, but almost all of them, are on my webpage, and links to them. And so on YouTube, they're hard to find. Some of them are hard to find, some of them are not. But you have links links on my webpage, and they are they're organized under topics. So you can sit there and study based on topics, and go through them systematically. Anyways, so that the top link is on my webpage. It's all my videos, or most of them. It's all the ones, or most of them. The bottom link is where you can sign in as a subscriber. Now, some of my exclusive content is bar members. Number 4. Arlington Private Information Share, land deed training. The Arlington Private Information Share is 9 videos by itself. The land deed training is a couple of them. Estoppel certificates training, foreclosure estoppel certificates training, corporate denial training, toll roads notice and demand training, invoice training, notice of void judgment training, revocation of signature training, third-party witness training, federal habeas corpus training, revocation of voter registration training, criminal complaint training, lawsuit training, and other training. Now, the criminal complaint training, there's a couple of videos on that, and there's probably going to be more on lawsuit training. I'm working on that. There's going to be multiple videos on that because there's a lot of issues that can come up. These liars, you know, first of all, the judge is sitting up there playing stupid. And so, might as well just get a retard in there because it'll be just as good. Anyways, so there's a lot of issues with lawsuits. And other training requests, I'm open to requests. All forms, files, and other instructions are available for free on my 2 private groups, the Yahoo groups and Google groups. I make everything you absolutely have to understand what's going on free. The training is mostly the stuff that you have to pay for because that's above and beyond. Although there's some of the stuff it's mostly just training, but that's above and beyond, and you know, you have to pay for that. I mean, you can figure it out yourself, or there's lots of sources online where you can get that information if you want. And so it's not that difficult. But if you want to pay, you can get the training. All the exclusive content's available on my website. You can buy a subscription there. Democracy, fake laws, false arrest, feel free. You are the property of Rome. Your Roman document of ownership is the Social Security card or also the birth certificate. You know, your parents run down and get one of those birth certificates when really it doesn't apply to anybody. In the old days, they used to keep it in the family Bible. But we can't have that, can we? Death by government, 145 million in the 20th century. Private murders, 8.5 million in the 20th century. When the government actually does something better than the private sector. Government is the undisputed champion of murder. The tyrant, who in order to hold his power suppresses every superiority, does away with good men, forbids education and light, controls every movement of the citizens, keeping them under perpetual servitude, slavery, wants them to grow accustomed to baseness and cowardice, has his spies everywhere. Gee, that sounds like surveillance, Facebook, Google, to listen to what is said in the meetings and spreads dissension and calumny among the citizens and impoverishes them. Gee, that sounds like our tax system, and is obliged to make war in order to keep his subjects occupied and impose upon them permanent need of a chief. Gee, and that's Aristotle. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Order followers, the servants of evil. You assist an evil system most effectively by obeying its orders and decrees. An evil system never deserves such allegiance. Allegiance to it means partaking of the evil. A good person will resist an evil system with his or her whole soul. Well said, Mahatma Gandhi. Order followers are the ones that keep the system of slavery in place. Mark Passio. Well said, Mark Passio. Check out his YouTube channel, What on Earth is Happening? Brilliant guy. Brilliant. Never forget the men who started this country were marijuana growing, whiskey drinking, tax evading rebels who left their beds at night to shoot at the pigs. What is called proclaiming martial law is no law at all, but merely for the sake of public safety in circumstances of great emergency, setting aside all law and acting under military power. And that's 8 Attorney General's opinion, 365 and 367, dated February 3rd, 1857. So again, emergency rule. The Caesars, that's how they ruled Rome. It was emergency rule. That's martial law, folks. The more corrupt the state, the more numerous the laws. That's Cornelius Tacitus, and above is in Latin. And fascism should more properly called corporatism because it's the merger of state and corporate power, and we have a fascist state. Actually, it's the fascists and the communists that are fighting over power right now. Under common law, you're presumed to have common law rights. Under martial law, you're presumed to be one of the slaves. And this is Uniform Commercial Code 1-206. Whenever the Uniform Commercial Code creates a presumption with respect to a fact and provides that a fact is presumed, the trier of fact must find the existence of the fact unless and until evidence is introduced that supports a finding of its non-existence. Whenever the Uniform Commercial Code creates that's the same thing. This is 3.308. In an action with respect to an instrument, the authenticity of and authority to make each signature on the instrument are admitted unless specifically denied in the pleadings. If the validity of a signature is, so that's you can read the rest of it if you want. And so the point is they forge your signature onto a contract. They presume you're one of the slaves. They forge your signature onto a contract. If you read the my corporate denial affidavit, is only corporations can appear, okay? And in any of these cases, with the state of Texas, for example, only corporations. If you show up, then you're saying I'm a corporation, and so then they can just go ahead and presume that you're a corporation. That judge or that bail priest up there, that Satanist whore, sits up there and says, "Are you Joe Blow?" And you say yes. Well, you just agreed to be a surety for their fictitious entity. The following rules apply in an action on a certificated security against the issuer. So you just agreed to be a surety on their fictitious entity. They assault you with one of their so-called quasi-contracts. They forge your signature, then they securitize it and sell it on Wall Street. The following rules apply on an action on a certificated security against the issuer. That's you. Unless specifically denied in the pleadings, the signature on a security certificate or in a necessary endorsement is admitted. That's you. They forged your signature onto a contract, and if you didn't know anything about it, then and you're too stupid to object to it, then they just that security is admitted. That signature is admitted. That's Uniform Commercial Code 8.114. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to click the bell next to the subscribe button so you're notified when there's a new upload. There's my front page of my channel. The arrow is pointing at the bell. The subscribe button's already been clicked because it's not red. And you have to click on the bell. A pop-up will come up, and you have to check the box saying you want to be notified of uploads. International law rule. This is all coming from the Roman cult, folks. Adopted for areas under federal legislative jurisdiction. That means states. Federalizes state civil law, including common law. The rule serves to federalize not only the statutory but the common law of a state. State and federal venue discuss the laws effective in an area of exclusive federal jurisdiction are federal law, notwithstanding their derivation from state laws. And a cause arising under such laws may be brought in or removed to federal district court. And that's taken from a document called Jurisdiction Over Federal Areas Within the States. A report of the Interdepartmental Committee for the Study of Jurisdiction Over Federal Areas Within the States, Part 2, a text of the law of legislative jurisdiction submitted to the Attorney General and transmitted to the President June 1957, and is taken from pages 158 through 165. Where the dots are is where there's stuff that's missing. Go look it up if you want to read it. We therefore decline to overrule the opinion of Chief Justice Marshall. We hold that the District of Columbia is not a state within Article 3 of the Constitution. In other words, cases between citizens of the district and those of the states were not included in a catalog of controversies over which Congress could give jurisdiction to the federal courts by virtue of Article 3. In other words, Congress has exclusive legislative jurisdiction over citizens of Washington District of Columbia, and through their plenary power, that's military dictatorship, folks, nationally covers those citizens, even in one of the several states, as though the district expands for the purpose of regulating its citizens wherever they go throughout the states of the Union. And that's National Mutual Insurance Company of the District of Columbia versus Tidewater Transfer Company. And that's basically supporting this one here, the international law rule. If you're a U.S. citizen, I don't care where you are, you're in the District of Columbia. Check out my other videos, Bankster Thieves 1 through 3, Roman Cult Slave Scam Series, the Bankrupt Corporate So-Called Governments, Bar Members 1 through 4, Do-It-Yourself How Not to Volunteer for the Selected Service in the Draft, Martial Laws here, Do-It-Yourself No Income Tax, Do-It-Yourself No Sales Tax, Do-It-Yourself Traffic Stop 1 through 4, Do-It-Yourself Free Mail, and Do-It-Yourself Kangaroo Courts 1 through 15. There's no common law offenses against the United States. That's all evidence that there's martial law. You're under martial law. Only those acts which Congress has forbidden with penalties for its disobedience are crimes. Okay, so under martial law, it supersedes and replaces common law, and so then they have to define everything. That's where you get civil law. And that's why they want martial law, because under common law, rights are unlimited. Okay, there's nothing defined. Under common law, you have unlimited rights, and so under martial law, you only have rights that they decide to give you. And so they go and pass statutes for things like murder, which at common law they wouldn't have to pass, but under martial law they pass a statute for murder, and so otherwise murder would be perfectly legal. So they got to maintain the illusion. They don't want you figuring out that there's no common law. Under Texas law, no act or omission is a crime unless made so by statute. The legislature may create an offense and in the same enactment provide exceptions to its applications. So they got to assault you in one of their quasi-contracts. That's exactly what they're doing, and they have to. And the interesting thing is that when they decide to start taking away your rights, well, it's easy to revise statutes. It's impossible to do anything about common law, but they can sit there and revise statutes all day long. And when they want to make you a slave, that's exactly what they do. Everything's an admiralty. A writ of error doth not lie upon a sentence in admiralty, but an appeal. Okay, all sentences are in admiralty. And that's why they got to have this admiralty, so they can sentence you. And the only alternative is an appeal. And that's taken from Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition, but they're citing Book 4 on the Institutes and the Laws of England. That's Coke in the 1500s. All appeals are in admiralty, and that's why it's called a court of appeals. Why do you think there's all these appeals courts all over the place? It's the same thing that precipitated the War of Independence. Statutes have been passed extending the courts of admiralty and vice-admiralty far beyond their ancient limits for depriving us of the accustomed and inestimable privilege of trial by jury in cases affecting both life and property, to supersede the course of common law and instead thereof to publish and order the use and exercise of the law martial, and for altering fundamentally the form of government established by charter. Our founding fathers rose up in rebellion because of what's going on today. And yet all these brain-dead idiots out there are doing nothing. We saw the misery to which despotism would reduce us. And that's taken from Causes and Necessities for Taking Up Arms, 1775. In the meantime, the civil law was the form of law imposed in the Roman Empire, which was largely, if not wholly, governed by martial law rule. Equity has always been understood to follow the law. To have superior equity is to turn things on their head. This is exactly what happens when martial law is imposed. If equity is the law, then it follows its own course rather than following the common law, thereby destroying the common law and leaving what's called equity in its place. Really? And so that's what I'm saying, is that under martial law, it supersedes and replaces common law, so then equity can do literally anything it wants. And that's taken from a book called The Non-Ratification of the 14th Amendment by Judge A.H. Ellett of the Utah Supreme Court in the case Diet versus Turner. My blog is sovereigntyinternational.wordpress.com. My website is sovereigntyinternational.fyi. My email address is engineerwin@yahoo.com. My YouTube profile's Sovereign Living. Sovereignty International is deleted. My Facebook community page, I deleted it due to censorship on the part of Facebook. My private group on Facebook, Sovereignty International, is being deleted. It takes time to ban 17,000 people off your group, and I'm not going to let Facebook profit from my hard work. My Yahoo private group is called Administrating Your Public Servants. That's where most of my small files are located. It's got an excellent files directory, and it's also got a links directory for the large files that are kept at Google Docs. And my Google private group is called Administrating Your Public Servants. Follow me on Twitter at Engineer Win. Every citizen and freeman is endowed with certain rights and privileges to enjoy which no written law or statute is required. These are fundamental or natural rights recognized among all free people. Taxpayers are not state citizens. So the first order of business they have to do is impose martial law, because they get rid of this nasty little problem called common law. State citizens are the only ones living in a free government whose rights are incapable of impairment by legislation or judicial decision. Did you give up your God-given rights for some satanic privileges? State citizenship is a vested substantial property right, and the state has no power to divest or impair these rights. State citizenship is a vested substantial property right, and the state has no power to divest or impair these rights. That's why they got to assault you with their real ID. The state citizen is immune from any and all government attacks and procedure absent contract. A state like a merchant makes a contract, and a dishonest state like a dishonest merchant willfully refuses to discharge it. Every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He's not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow men without his consent. They just go ahead and fabricate evidence of their Roman cult Sestake trust so they can drag you in there and assault you with one of their quasi-contracts. The rights of the individuals are restricted only to the extent that they have been voluntarily surrendered by citizenship to the agencies of government. The people are sovereign and are not bound by general word and statutes restrictive of prerogative, right, title, or interest unless expressly named. Acts of limitation do not bind the king or the people. The people have been ceded all the rights of the king, the former sovereign. It will be admitted on all hands that with the exception of the powers granted to the states and the federal government through the constitutions, the people of the several states are unconditionally sovereign within their respective states. A sovereign is exempt from suit not because of any formal conception or obsolete theory, but on the logical and practical ground that there can be no legal right as against the authority that makes the law on which the right depends. At the revolution, the sovereignty devolved on the people, and they are truly the sovereigns of the country. The citizens of America are equal as fellow citizens and joint tenants in the sovereignty. People of a state are entitled to all the rights which formerly belonged to the king by his prerogative. See the Do You Know Who You Are playlist. One may be a citizen of a state and yet not a citizen of the United States. Privileges and immunities of clause of the 14th Amendment protects only those rights peculiar to being a citizen of the federal government. It does not protect those rights which relate to state citizenship. Merely being native born within the territorial boundaries of the United States of America does not make such an inhabitant a citizen of the United States subject to the jurisdiction of the 14th Amendment. There is in our political system a government of each of the several states and a government of the United States. Each is distinct from the other and has citizens of its own. One may be a citizen of a state and yet not a citizen of the United States. Both before and after the 14th Amendment to the Federal Constitution, it has not been necessary for a person to be a citizen of the U.S. in order to be a citizen of his state. A person who is a citizen of the United States is necessarily a citizen of a particular state in which he resides, but a citizen may be a citizen of a particular state and not a citizen of the United States. To hold otherwise would be to deny to the state the highest exercise of its sovereignty, the right to declare who are its citizens. If wars can be started by lies, peace can be started by truth. Well said, Julian Assange. Anarchy is no guarantee that some people won't kill, injure, kidnap, defraud, steal from others. Government is a guarantee that some will. You got that right. Two wings of one tyrannical bird. Left versus right. And as a false paradigm, choose liberty. The left wing is the communists, the right wing is the fascists. And that's what's going on nowadays. Either way, it's tyrants. People don't realize how hard it is to speak the truth to a world full of people that don't realize they're living a lie. Yeah, Edward Snowden is a true patriot, and I hope that I am sure, there's no doubt in my mind that one day he will be recognized that way too. There is no such thing as East versus West. There is only the globalist right hand and the globalist left hand, working together to create crisis and offer their solution. And notice this. There's the left hand, and there's the right hand. The government will one day be corrupt and filled with liars, and the people will flock to the one that tells the truth. Well said, Thomas Jefferson, and that's exactly what's happening. And Donald Trump's speech to the UN a couple days ago was absolutely wonderful. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Thanks for watching. Everything's an illusion. Texas does not exist. The state of Texas does not exist. They are nothing but thieves and tyrants. And No living man has any place in their so-called courts. And the sooner you figure that out, the better. Have a great day.